NFL player props here on PrizePicks for Thursday Night Football. We got Washington Commanders versus the Chicago Bears. And before I get started, there's a link in the description below to sign up for PrizePicks, or you can use promo code TUFF to sign up. PrizePicks will match 100% of your first deposit. There's also a Discord link in the description where the main server is currently completely free, as well as Patreon link where, again, I post all the plays I'm making for each given sport: MLB, NBA, college football, NFL player props on Patreon every single day. Multiple posts on Patreon. Go and check out that link in the description below of this video. Again, I do want to mention I'm not a gambling expert. This is not financial advice. These are simply just some plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to help you guys make your own plays. But let's get into it, you guys. Two total player props that I do like here from this game: Commanders versus Bears. Now, the over-under is set here at 38, so Vegas is expecting this to be a pretty low-scoring game. This game is in Chicago. Weather's looking like it's going to be a little cold, but looking like some clear skies. Weather shouldn't really impact this game. Injury notes: Logan Thomas is out. Damien Brown is questionable for the Commanders. Jalen Johnson, cornerback, is out. So nothing really too crazy as far as impacting player props here, in my opinion, here on PrizePicks for this game. Washington is, I guess, favored in this game, or spread consensus pick is even. So I expect this game to be close. 1-4 team Commanders, 2-3 Chicago, at home for Chicago. Yeah, so keep that in mind, you guys. Let's get into it. Hopefully this does remain a close game. I'm going to play this game on PrizePicks like it's going to be a close game. So yeah, let's get into it. Two total player props that I do like. Let's go. First one is going to be J.D. McKissic receiving yards, and I'm taking the over on this one at 19.5. Now, again, like I've alluded to before, and I think maybe Sunday's video, running back receiving props are obviously like a little more volatile than like other props. Obviously, if you're a wide receiver, you're supposed to catch the ball. Running back's supposed to run the ball, things like that. But J.D. McKissic was re-signed to this Washington Commanders team to be a pass-catching back. And as you can see here, over his last 5 games, he's hit the over of 19.5 4 times. Okay, 4 times, actually 4 times this season. And his only miss, he had 16. So it wasn't like a complete miss here. But 20, 54, 32, 16, and 37 receiving yards here for J.D. McKissic. But let's get into why I like this. So one, J.D. McKissic here continues to dominate the snap count for the Washington Commanders. Now, Brian Robinson came back last week. He had 29%, 18 total snaps. J.D. McKissic still has, he's been dominating the snap count overall, right? 40%, 46, 53, 51, and 41. He had quite a bit more snaps here, 6 more snaps than Antonio Gibson in this game. Has really outsnapped Antonio Gibson every game except for the first one, right? Or his last 3 games, J.D. McKissic has definitely outsnapped Antonio Gibson. Brian Robinson being there, obviously this is definitely a backfield committee, but J.D. McKissic, again, he's been in there at pretty much every third down he's in the game. Anytime there's a passing play, he's in the game, right? So first off, J.D. McKissic, like I said, this year has had targets of 3, 4, 7, 9, and 7. Has had receptions of 7, 6, 5, 3, and 3. You could also take a look here at his receptions prop at 3, right? But I like it. I think it definitely has push potential. He hasn't missed on this all season, so this is definitely a strong prop. But I like receiving yards here at 19.5. Running backs this season against the Bears have had some success out the backfield catching the ball. We can see here 19.5 is the prop. 5 running backs have already hit the over on this on 4 different teams, right? So Houston, Minnesota, or actually 3 different teams. Aaron Jones had 38, Dalvin Cook 27, Rex Burkhead 21, Madison 21, and Dameon Pierce 21. So some pretty decent success here. 5 games, 5 different running backs have already had over 19.5 receiving yards. And I would say none of these running backs here are, maybe Saquon Barkley, but he didn't get it. He had 16, but he had 146 rushing yards, 31 attempts. But none of these running backs here on this list are the pass-catching back that J.D. McKissic is, and is not utilized like the pass-catching back that J.D. McKissic is. I also like this play here at 19.5 because Pinnacle Sportsbook has this line at 22.5. So you are getting that 3-yard discount here on PrizePicks currently at 19.5. Again, I think it's just great value for a player that's hit the over on this 4 of his last 5 games, all 4 of his last 5 games this season, more specifically, and even dating back to last season. J.D. McKissic was doing this last year quite a bit as well. You could see receiving yards. He hit 1, 2, 3, 7 times last season. He hit the over on this 18.5 receiving yards. It's just known in the general NFL space that he's a receiving back. 19.5 receiving yards for him, taking the over on this one. for the Chicago Bears. It's going to be an interesting one, obviously, but I think this player, like, fantasy score is just too low here. It's going to be Justin Fields over 13.5 fantasy points here. Now, 13.5 is pretty low for a quarterback in general. I mean, Justin Fields, again, you can say what you want about Justin Fields. The dual threat talent, however, is there. And he's coming off a game where he had 17 fantasy points against the Minnesota Vikings. He has had over 13.5 one other time this season where he had 14.6 fantasy points against the Giants, or against the Niners in that first game, which was just in the rain. And then 3 straight games here in the middle, which just were absolutely horrendous from the Bears' offensive standpoint as a whole. And again, Justin Fields didn't play that well. But he is coming off a game here, if we take a look at this, against Minnesota, where he threw 21 passes. He completed 15, so 15 to 21, which is 71% completion, which is the highest so far this season. 208 total yards, a passing touchdown. Also had 8 rushing attempts for 47 yards. The rushing attempts have been slowly but surely getting better. Definitely offensive schemes are getting more geared towards Justin running the ball, which I think beginning of the season they were, I don't know what, but we're kind of starting to see Matt Eberflus and the Bears offense start to kind of understand what Justin Fields is as a player and how they can utilize him best. But 13.5 fantasy points. I mean, Justin Fields' rush yards prop is already at 40.5. So, I mean, that's 4 fantasy points right there, right, for Justin Fields. So if you take a look here, if he hits this, I mean, if he hits the rush yards prop at 4, he throws a touchdown pass and then throws for like 150 yards. I mean, that's super close to 13.5 fantasy points. But if you don't know the scoring chart here for quarterbacks, passing yards is 0.4 points per yard. Passing TDs 4. Rushing yards obviously 0.1. Rushing TDs 6. It's your basic stuff right here. Nothing too crazy. If you play fantasy football, you understand how quarterbacks are usually scored. Quarterbacks this season, though, against the Giants, I mean, the Commanders have done pretty well. I mean, they've been able to pass the ball. We've seen 4 quarterbacks go over 200 yards passing. Had decent passing completion percentage. I mean, nothing crazy. Justin Fields threw for 340, had 3 touchdowns. Jared Goff had 256 and 4 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence had 275 and a touchdown. And then Cooper Rush had 223 and 2 touchdowns as well. So I think, I mean, there's opportunity here against this Washington defense who, I mean, if you take a look at overall, like, stats in the NFL, where's it? Washington, or here we go, team total defense. I mean, Washington is giving up 25 points a game, 128 points total, 25 points a game. I mean, that's a decent amount here. They are kind of they're showing the ability somewhat to stop the run, 120 yards rush yards per game, which is, I guess, a little bit above average here. Pass yards per game, right? They're lower down here, around 235 pass yards per game. But I think this game at home for Justin Fields against the Commanders, obviously he's coming off a game which I think they lost, but it definitely built some confidence here for Justin Fields. 15 for 21, 208 yards passing. First time he's gone over 208 this season. I mean, last season he had a couple games where he went over 200 yards passing, 291 here against the Steelers. Rushing yards are always going to be there, but I think in this game for Justin Fields, 13.5 fantasy points, pretty low. He's coming off a game where he had 17. He just needs 13.6 fantasy points to hit the over on this one. I think there's a lot of things, a combination of things that could go on for Justin Fields to hit the over on this one, and I'm taking the over on it. I think for a over-under here, like I said, for this game at 38, there's going to be quite a bit of running of the ball, and I think if the Bears do get in that goal line or that red zone area, that definitely creates a lot of opportunities for Justin Fields to score touchdowns with his arm and his feet. So again, Justin Fields over 13.5 fantasy score. J.D. McKissic over 19.5 receiving yards. Obviously, this game is going to be extremely volatile, in my opinion. I mean, we're taking the Commanders and the Bears. It can't be worse than Colts Broncos last Thursday. But I mean, again, these Thursday night games have been super, super, super tough to predict here. So keep in mind, tail lightly, in my opinion, on all plays. Just bet lightly in this game in general. All I ask is please drop a like on this video, you guys. Hit that subscribe button. And as always, let's cash.